and Councillor Cecile Beyond, Deputy Mayor and Mayoress-elect, Councillor Raymond Dutton and Mrs Elaine Dutton, together with the Chief Executive of Rochdale Borough Council, Mr Steve Romolo. Ladies and gentlemen, with your applause, you're welcome, please. It's my pleasure to introduce the champions of Great Britain and the European champions, the Wardle Academy Youth Brass Band. Wardle Academy's Youth Brass Band are a group of young musicians who have achieved a tremendous amount this year. In April, they beat 12 bands from around the country to be named 2015 National Youth Brass Band Intermediate Champions of Great Britain at the National Youth Band Championships. And 2 weeks ago, they went even further, travelling to Freiburg in Germany and beating bands from Scotland, Norway, Lithuania and Germany to become 2015 European Youth Brass Band Champions. Ladies and gentlemen, Councillor Carol Wardle will announce that the first business of the Council is to welcome the election of Councillor Serinda Beyond as Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Rochdale for the ensuing municipal year. Councillor Carol Wardle.
To welcome Councillor Beyond as Mayor of the Borough of Rochdale. Congratulations.
Please welcome Councillor Neil Emmett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It should have actually been Councillor Farnell to welcome the election of Serinda as Mayor tonight. Unfortunately, Councillor Farnell's been taken ill today, so the onerous task has fallen on me to welcome Councillor Beyond as Mayor. So if there's anything you don't agree with what I say tonight, in the best traditions of Blue Peter, whilst Councillor Farnell's not here, here's one he prepared earlier. So just remember that they're his words and not mine. Madam Mayor, Lord Lieutenant, it gives me great pleasure to propose the election of Councillor Serinda Beyond as Mayor of the Rochdale Metropolitan Borough. There can be few holders of the office of Mayor who have had such a varied and interesting life as Serinda. At various times, he has been a plumber, and a drain layer, a teacher, a youth worker, a race relations officer, education officer, radio presenter, community journalist, qualified football association coach, accomplished hockey player and cricket enthusiast. Serinda Beyond was born in Nairobi in Kenya, the middle of 11 children. His father was involved in the independence movement in Kenya and had been a political prisoner in Fort Jesus in Mombasa for making public independence speeches. As a boy, Serinda was his courier, delivering leaflets and typed letters for him. I think he got on to delivering leaflets considerably later on in his life. Surinder left school at age 14 to work for his brother in Uganda as a plumber and drain layer. He saved his money and he went back to school at 18. He passed 7 O-levels and went on to train as a teacher. He taught science and PE in Uganda. Then he got a teaching job in Canada, although he had a British passport. However, Surinder never got to Canada. He stopped en route with a brother in Nottingham, and he decided to work there. He worked as a plumber for a year, saving his money to further his education. He then attended Nottingham College of Education to retrain as a teacher, as his Uganda qualification was not accepted here. It is in Nottingham where he first met Cecile, on the hockey field in 1965, and they were married in 1967. They have 2 children. Leela is 42 and an orthopaedic surgeon. Inda is 38 and has a media electronics business. Both are married, each with a young daughter, and they tell everyone what a great father Surinder was as they were growing up, and he still is. The Biant family moved to Rochdale in 1969 when Surinder got promotion to teach at the English Teaching Centre, now Castlemere Community Centre. I believe that one of his students was the future Councillor Sultan Ali. Surinder was promoted to deputy head before going on to Greenhill School, which is now Failinge Park High School, and he was head of the remedial department. He then took a year out to get a degree in education from Manchester Polytechnic, before being appointed as head of the school unit at Foxholes House. He also obtained a postgraduate diploma in educational management and a youth leadership qualification. He worked as a Rochdale Council Race Relations Officer, then as an Education Officer, and then Principal Education Officer. Surinder took voluntary redundancy at a time of budget reductions to the service. Nothing ever changes. And retirement meant he could pursue his political ambitions. Surinder had worked for Rochdale Council for 24 years, and was therefore disqualified from standing for political office in Rochdale while still working for the authority. Before he retired, Surinder was acting Deputy Director of Education, with responsibility for all pupil services, appeals and special education. Surinder also worked for 12 years in the evenings for BBC Radio Manchester as a producer and presenter of community access programmes, Eastwards, North-Westwards, which developed very high ratings. The Liverpool Literary Society gave Surinder an award for his contribution to community journalism. He was chair of the North West Minority Arts Group, and he organised several concerts. Surinder set up and ran the first Asian youth club for boys in Rochdale Borough, the Star Youth Group, entering them into the Youth Festival of Music, where they won an award. He soon followed this by setting up a similar girls' group. Surinder was chair of governors at Broadfield School, a governor of Healy Primary School, and is currently a governor of Spotland Primary School. Surinder brought the Kenya national cricket team to Rochdale for the Commonwealth Games, arranging activities and an exhibition at Touchstones. Surinder was president of the Rochdale United Volleyball Club, I didn't know that, arranging national tournaments. He is president of the UK Friends of Kenya Cricket, and as said before, he has brought their national team to play in Rochdale on a number of occasions. Surinder was the driving force in 1993 in fundraising for the building of the Lake Bogoria Rochdale Secondary School in Loboi in Kenya, where £80,000 was raised in a single day. He was honoured for his service to the community through an invitation from Prince Charles to Buckingham Palace, and his simile has been recognised at a reception in Downing Street. Surinder's contested council elections more times than most people have had hot dinners. Surinder first stood for election in Northern, not exactly the bastion of the red flag, then Belfield and Deeplish, and then finally in Healy. Again, it was not at the time a very good stamping ground for the Labour Party. However, in 2003, he won at his fourth attempt. He then went on to contest Smallbridge and Firgrove, and then Surinder went on to contest Spotland and Failinge. And at his third attempt, he won by 400 votes. Cecile followed him onto the council in the same ward in 2011. On a political side, Surinder has been a Labour Party member for over 40 years and has worked for most of that time canvassing and leafleting for local and national and European elections. He's always been loyal to the Labour Party and its ideals. He once addressed the Labour Party National Conference, receiving sympathetic nods from Tony Blair, Gordon Brown and David Blunkett when he urged them to wipe out Third World debts, which they did a few months later. This, Madam Mayor, is just a snapshot of the incredibly busy and exciting life of Surinder Beyond. One thing is certain, he will be equally dedicated and hard-working as Mayor of our borough. Since adopting Rochdale as their home in 1969, Surinder and Cecile have worked tirelessly for the benefit of countless community groups and good causes. There can be fewer holders of the office of Mayor who have served such a rigorous apprenticeship of public service and community service. So therefore, finally, it gives me great pleasure to formally propose that Councillor Surinder Beyond be appointed as the Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Rochdale. He will be a great public ambassador for the borough, and above all, Madam Mayor, he has earned it. Thank you.
Welcome, Councillor Ashley Darling. Deputy Lord Lieutenant, Madam Mayor, Mayoress, distinguished guests. I am very pleased to second the appointment of Councillor Surinder Beyond as Mayor of Rochdale Borough for the ensuing year. I have known Councillor Beyond for many years, originally as a senior officer of this council and in recent years as a councillor. And in both those roles, his consideration of others, good manners and courtesy have always been his characteristics. I know both Cecile and Surinder will represent the borough with great dignity and will do all they can to promote Rochdale Borough in a positive manner over the coming year. Indeed, here tonight, the music provided by Graham Chamberlain, Multi-Ethnic Arts and Media Centre, the Carers Choir and Wardle Academy Youth Brass Band. We are well aware of the broad range and wonderful talent we have in the borough. And I would especially like to mention again Wardle Academy Youth Brass Band. Probably of all representing Wardle Ward, it is one of the greatest privileges to have seen the success of Wardle bands throughout all the years that I've been on council. And tonight, of course, is no exception, with the great success being the great British champions and also European champions. It's wonderful news, and we are all proud of what they have achieved and the positive image they give to our town and to all young people. Wouldn't it be wonderful if our media, in all its forms, concentrated on these positive images of Rochdale
and worked as hard as the Wardle young people do to diligently promote what is good in our town. So thanks to our Mayor-elect for highlighting tonight so much that is excellent in our borough. Surinder and Cecile, I know, will have a wonderful year. They will enjoy it and cherish all the memories, and in 12 months' time, we shall all look back on a successful year and will all be proud of their time as Mayor and Mayoress of our borough. I am delighted to second the appointment.
Finally, please welcome Councillor Darlot Allen.
Madam Mayor, Mayoress, fellow councillors, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, good evening. Most of the things have been covered. Not take a lot of time. It gives me a great pleasure to support the election of councillors in the beyond as a mayor for the ensuing municipal year. In the mayoral note, it says, Surinder was born in 1938. I certainly wasn't around when he was born, but somehow I know when he went for his British passport, on which he travelled to England, intending for Canada, they wanted to know his date of birth, and nobody knew. So they approached the midwife, and she went into a deep thought, and she says, I think it was a very windy night. So Surinder could have been born in 40 or 36. That apart, when he got his passport, and then it has been said he came to Rochdale, excuse me. I have known Surinder for over 35 years. I first met him at English Teaching Centre, where my younger brother studied. And during the election, when I went door knocking with him in Scotland, every third house had one of his students. I think this is how he worked. At that time, I couldn't speak English either, and I was very nervous. I was taking my younger brother there at English Teaching Centre, and I became Surinder. And then I was very comfortable, and he made us very comfortable, and I've known him ever since. And I came to know him as a youth worker, because I used to use Broadwater, which is no more. It was a radio presenter, I used to listen. When he worked for Racial Equality Council, I used to take people down there. I says, there is a man who can help you. As an education officer, I knew him. And Labour Party member and activist. And I think Surinder influenced me. And he used to ask me, why don't you stand for a councillor? And I said, every time you stand, you lose. Why do you want me to lose? And ironically, first time I stood, I lost him. So I followed in his footsteps. Now, I know that he did a lot of charity work, not only in Africa, in Kashmir too. And he has, I don't know, he's got that charisma and knack for, like getting people to pay. I couldn't get them to pay, he did. But what struck me most was, when he was working for radio in Manchester in the evening, he raised funds to send people who couldn't afford to go to Mecca on pilgrimage. And that really moved me. I remember him, but I remember him most for his great groundbreaking community cohesion work that he did in the field of equality. In schools, he introduced a law meal, and he was instrumental in introducing mother tongue teaching as a council officer. And I have had pleasure of attending a lot of inter-community and interfaith awareness sessions that is arranged. His work is spread over 40 years. It is very difficult to summarize, but I think Neil summarized it very well. I will finish by saying that he would be a wonderful ambassador for our diverse borough, and I know he will be more than ably supported by Councillor Cecile Beyond in his work. As they say, there is always a woman behind a successful man. He couldn't have achieved anything without her support, I know that. Once again, Madam Mayor, it gives me pleasure to support my good friend, Surinder Beyond, as a mayor. Thank you.
I ask the more than melody singers to make their way up to the piano, please. And I'd also like to thank the chorus choir who were singing in the exchange as you arrived. Ladies and gentlemen, His Worship the Mayor. Councillor Surinder Beyond will now make the declaration accepting the mayoral office.
I, Surinder Beyond, having been elected to the office of mayor, declare that I take the office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfill the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I understand in my performance of my functions in that office to observe the code as to the conduct that is expected of members of council, and which was adopted by resolution of the council on the 25th of July 2012.
I will now present the past Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the worshipful Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Rochdale, Councillor Surinder Biant. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the worshipful Mayor of the Metropolitan Borough of Rochdale, Councillor Surinder Biant.
Good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I think you've been subjected to long speeches already, so this is going to be a rather short speech, hopefully. I want to thank colleagues on the Council for proposing and accepting me to the office of Mayor of Rochdale and giving me the honour of this office. I shall serve the Council and the people of Borough of Rochdale to the best of my ability. Thanks also to my family, friends and colleagues who have come to the event to share this occasion which is momentous for me. One of my two granddaughters, Alex, has travelled from Edinburgh to see her Baba. She calls me, Baba is a word for granddad. Says she's come to see Baba have a chain put around his neck. Alex, you see my chain put around my neck. And she'll be collecting for the Mayor's charity when we go downstairs. I hope you'll be generous when she comes around with the bucket. People here have travelled from London, Bristol, Stratford-upon-Avon, Leicester, Nottingham, Beverley, Leeds, Edinburgh, just for this event, and most are travelling back tonight. People who have only travelled a mile or so from within Rochdale are equally welcome. Cecile and I are very grateful to you for making this effort to attend tonight. I want to thank Neil Emmett, Bernache and Dalit for their speeches proposing and seconding me, although I was out of the room at the time and I didn't hear what they said. So I'm expecting the rest of you to tell me if they said anything bad or embarrassing about me. So will you add later on? I want to thank Mark Coleman for agreeing to be my chaplain for the year. I know that his words of blessing were intended to embrace everyone of all faiths or none. He is not only Vicar of Rochdale but also one of my constituents, and he and his wife Wendy are our new friends. I'm sure you have enjoyed the entertainment so far. I wish to thank the Carers Choir for starting off the entertainment. I know that they have another engagement, so they had to leave. I saw the choir when it was first formed. It was an inspiring idea which has not only given pleasure to those who are listening, but also, I believe, to the carers themselves. Thank you very much indeed. The young people of Rochdale are wonderful and truly deserving of their awards. I'm amazed at their talent every time I hear them. Absolutely brilliant. I thank More Than Melody Choir for agreeing to entertain us. My wife Cecile says the standard of their singing is very good, but I just know that it sounds beautiful. I love listening to it. Now, please raise your hands if you ever were a former pupil of mine in Rochdale. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much indeed. One of my former pupils is Mohammed Selva, who is entertaining you this evening as Director of Multi Arts and Media Centre. He has taught many young people love of music and filmmaking, and I'm proud that I was his teacher. I also taught Councillor Sultan Ali and Councillor Zulfikar, both former mayors of Rochdale. Getting old now. Your pianist this evening was Graham Chamberlain, who is a constituent I met about a year ago on the Friends of Dinas Park committee. He has become a new friend, so it is special for us that he agreed to play here tonight. And I must say a very special thanks to Alan Cowell, the master of ceremonies. He's an absolute master wherever he goes. He takes everything as a master. Thank you very much indeed. And he's taking much of the stress of knowing what to do and when from my shoulders tonight as well. Thank you. I also want to thank Dorothy Johnston and the Town Hall staff for arrangements for tonight and support throughout my year as Deputy Mayor. My fellow councillors are mostly wonderful people who give great service to the people of Rochdale, for little reward except for knowing that they are helping to improve the quality of people's lives. As I see more of them than my own family, they are like a second family to me. So thank you very much for being so special to me. Lastly, I want to thank Carol and her daughter Beverly for the tremendous work they have done as Mayor and Mayoress of the Borough of Rochdale, and for all the support they gave us as deputies. I think they are a very hard act to follow. I know I'll be well supported in my duties by Cecile, my wife, of nearly 48 years, is that right? And by Ray and Eileen as our deputies. My charities are as follows. Spring Hill Hospice is known by everyone in Rochdale for its care for the terminally ill and has been one of the Mayor's charities for a number of years. My second charity is Petrus, which is a charity which helps homeless people in many ways besides just finding them a roof over their heads. My third one is another special one, and that's the Kiza Women's Group, which help women to form a network of support and friendship and overcome the problem of isolation. And I know the person who runs it, she has done a lot of tremendous work in the community. Nazia Sharif, thank you very much indeed, and I'm glad that I respond to your association. My fourth one is the Children's Deaf Society in Rochdale. It's a local group affiliated to the national group which gives support and confidence to deaf children and their families. And finally, is the Shopability, provides an excellent service to shoppers in Rochdale who have mobility problems. I hope you will feel that you can support me with these charities, and let me know if you have any good ideas for fundraising for my charity. I want to continue with Carol's promotion of We Stand Together to celebrate all that is positive about Rochdale. When I first came to Rochdale in 1969 for an interview to teach at the English Teaching Centre, I went back to Southwell in Nottinghamshire where we lived and told Cecile that Rochdale is a great place. I told her it is a lovely northern town with a fine town hall, and within 10 minutes by car you can be in the open countryside. Rochdale Borough has a lot to be proud of. Its heritage, its buildings, its environment, its organisation, and above all, the friendship of the people of Rochdale. I have lived here longer than I have lived anywhere else, and my children were born here. Rochdale is home, and maybe for the rest of my life. I have lived in Seven Sisters right across the road from here, and now live near the Cotton Famine Road and Ely Dam. I have worked in Rochdale schools, at the Town Hall and No. 1 Riverside. Let us all who live here tell others how proud we are of Rochdale and our town. I also want to spend my time promoting business in Rochdale Borough to provide jobs at all levels of our people, which will keep them wanting to stay here. I want to sing the praises of the standard of education and opportunities provided in our schools and colleges, and to promote their chances to continue to improve. And hopefully by doing this, I will stop the brain drain of our children who qualify and do well in our education institutions, then go away and work elsewhere. I think we should make provision for them to stay and work here where they've been born and brought up. So this is one of the important things for us to do with all the business people in the hall, to sort of help us with providing jobs for these people who have done educationally, but they're looking for jobs and they don't go away. When I was a child, my father was part of the freedom movement in Kenya in the struggle for independence. He was a political prisoner a few times because he was a friend of Jomo Kenyatta, who was considered as a terrorist at the time, but who later became the first president of Kenya and was an outspoken advocate of independence. He used to type letters in prison, and I was his courier. He became a councillor in Nairobi City Council and also stood unsuccessfully for Parliament 3 times in Kenya. I was in his main leafleter, and to tell you the truth, I hated it. When I got tired, I dumped some of the leaflets in the bin and went home. I suppose it was inevitable that I would go into politics, although for me it came late in life after my career in teaching and as an education officer. I'm pleased that I was able to fulfill this ambition and to be offered the position of this first citizen of Borough for a year. My father would have been proud of me, as I'm proud to be part of the lives of many people who live here and who are present in the hall. I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, and I look forward to talking to you later on downstairs. Thank you very much indeed.
Firstly, a huge thank you for allowing us this wonderful year, filled with once-in-a-lifetime, unforgettable events. It's been an absolute honour and privilege to represent the borough as its first citizens at an array of important celebrations and commemorations, not to mention prestigious annual civic occasions, such as the Judge's Service at Manchester Cathedral with all the chain gang in ceremonial robes, and every Japanese and Chinese from miles around taking pictures frantically. Finally, I'm delighted to say, and you've all been waiting for this, that although we do not yet have the final total of money raised by charities, we have now passed the £45,000 mark.
The next business is to welcome the appointment of Councillor Raymond Dutton as Deputy Mayor. Councillor Susan Emmett will welcome the appointment, supported by Ashley Donnelly and Councillor Neil Emmett.
I, Raymond Dutton, having been elected to the office of Deputy Mayor, declare that I take that office upon myself and will duly and faithfully fulfil the duties of it according to the best of my judgment and ability. I undertake my performance of my functions in that office to observe the code as to the conduct that is expected of members of the Council and which was adopted by the resolution of the Council on the 25th of July 2012.
The Deputy Mayor's chair will now be placed upon Councillor Dutton by the new Mayor. The Mayor's attendant will now place the Deputy Mayor's chain on Mrs. Elaine Dutton. Mrs. Beverly Place. I'd like to ask Mohammed Sawa as well to take their place at the front, please. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to welcome Mohammed Sawa here at the Town Hall. Mohammed is the Chief Executive of the Multicultural Arts and Media Centre, and together with Razwan Sawa, who is on the piano, they'll be playing tabla and fusion. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mohammed and Razwan.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be part of this ceremony, and thank you very much for your kind words. I was your student and I am still I am. I keep learning. I remember when you fought for me with the council to get a mandatory grant, a discretionary grant for me to go and study at Dartington College of Arts in Devon. That was going back in 1986. And since then, I've developed, I've learned, and made Rochdale feel proud of the cultural diversity that we have, and continue to do so. And I'm now joined also by my eldest son, who is a music teacher in Halifax. He has taken about 500 kids to Royal Albert Hall last November, and recently he's now will be moving to Dubai as a head of performing arts.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the formalities. The Mayor invites members, guests and entertainers to join him downstairs in the exchange for refreshments. Ladies and gentlemen, would I ask you to please stand whilst the Mayor and the platform party leave the Great Hall.